After our investigation, Price of Patrols, viewers like you reached out to me with concerns about the two trains, so I figure there is no better way for me to get an idea of what's going on than to ride the train myself. I'm Katelynn Ulrich, and coming up tonight, I speak to viewers about their concerns, as well as a man who was pushed onto the tracks. Earlier today, around 10:30, when we were there, it was like we were packed like sardines. We could hardly move. We were squeezing through people. I'm going to step to the side, though, so you can just take a look outside of the park. There are still protesters here. As you can see, this man has been sitting in the intersection on the floor for the last half hour. Well, according to the NYPD, Atlantic Ave off of the Hill has what's called patrol coverage, meaning officers are riding these trains back and forth, getting off at certain stops to perform platform inspections. And just moments ago, I saw one of those officers.
Yeah, that was a really difficult interview. That was Nicole. She's the mother of one of Tommy's children, and it was really difficult for her to talk about losing him, and then in the way that she lost him.
Right, of course. And it's something that so many people, unfortunately, are dealing with, loved ones being injured and hurt on the city's subways because of violence.
No, it's true, and I'm sure New Yorkers are happy to see that extra patrol, but of course we still got to follow the money.
Well, it's really the big question, and the comptroller just released a report 2 days ago showing that in fiscal year 2022, NYPD overspent their overtime budget by 93%, and that's all of overtime.
Neighbors have a lot of concerns over the justification of this shooting. Neighbors I spoke to say they just don't believe that the man who was shot would point guns at an officer. Now, the NYPD says that the nephew of the man shot was the one who called police, and one neighbor I spoke to says he knew the man shot. He also knew he had a gun, and he thought police were going to help him. Yeah, well, Amanda, I want you to take a look. You can see the windows on the top floor of this Hendricks Street apartment are all boarded up. They're the very windows that a man was dangling his children out of, trying to get them to safety, and that's according to the very man who jumped into action to try and help. Millions of New Yorkers riding the subway.
You never know what's going to happen.
Fearing for their safety.
It's lawless.
And those in power say they will reduce crime. But how and at what cost?
A man was stabbed to death on Friday.
Last September, Tommy Bailey's life was cut short at the Atlantic Avenue stop. Following his killing, at least 2 others were slain on the subway throughout the city in October of last year. In response, Governor Hochul announced more cops on subway platforms.
Supporting law enforcement, deploying more resources, bringing in reinforcements from us.
1,200 additional overtime shifts were created to staff the platforms, resulting in 10,000 daily overtime hours, according to the governor. Now, we spent months trying to find out how much these shifts cost and how they would be paid for, only to be stonewalled.
Each 10,000 hours of overtime per day would be about $1 million.
The Citizens Budget Commission is a nonprofit that watches the budget closely, and with their estimate, the cost of these overtime shifts alone has surpassed $100 million. Over the course of a month, we went to 4 different stops multiple times because we wanted to know where the investment was being made. It's January 10th. It's January 17th. It's January 21st. It is January 24th. We're back at it again. News 12 Investigates went to 36th Street and Sunset Park, where the subway shooter opened fire in April. Often, we found 3 or more officers there, and at Union Square, where 8 train lines converge. Looks like a bunch of officers just got back from getting dinner. We always saw 2 or more officers on patrol. But at 176th Street in the Bronx, where a Citi Field employee was killed in October. Usually I'm here towards the end of rush hour, so closer to 8. And there aren't any officers. We saw a pair of officers just once out of the 4 times we visited. And we went to Atlantic Avenue, where Tommy Bailey was killed once a week for a month, always around rush hour, and never once spotted an officer there. We told the NYPD about our findings. We asked if we could speak with NYPD Chief of Transit, Michael Kemper. I will send that formal request again, though. Okay. And they denied our request for an interview. Well, according to the NYPD, Atlantic Ave off of the Hill has what's called patrol coverage, meaning officers are riding these trains back and forth, getting off at certain stops to perform platform inspections. And just moments ago,
I saw one of those officers. In a statement, an NYPD spokesperson promises and, quote, omnipresence that riders at all hours can see and feel as they make their way to school, work, or home, unquote. And they say the department focuses on, quote, priority stations and lines throughout the subway system, unquote.
According to the governor's office, major crime on the subway was down 16% in January since the launch of the overtime shifts. But no one is saying how much these overtime shifts cost and how they're being paid. In January, I asked the question directly to the governor.
Again, we're assessing the data. Trends are much improved, but we want to make sure that, we continue to be a good partner to the mayor. So much more will be reviewed in our budget in the next couple of days.
But in Governor Hochul's 2024 budget, there was no mention of funding for the overtime shifts. When we asked the mayor's office for the cost, they referred us to the Office of Management and Budget. Then OMB referred us to the NYPD. The NYPD didn't answer our specific questions about cost. Instead, they simply told us the state said it was committing $62 million. New Yorkers now wait to see if all these efforts will ensure no one else's life reaches the end of the line. For News 12, I'm Katelynn Ulrich.
Every time she rinses her hair and combs her hair, comes off on the comb along with skin.
Something that happens with a condition called alopecia. The condition that, according to Christine's doctor, occurred because of chemical burns to her scalp after coloring her hair.
He's like, he touches my hair. He's like, you ready to go platinum? So I'm like, yes I am. I'm like super excited.
At the end of January, Christine says she was a hair model for Brian Andrew as he taught a platinum blonde class at his Bronx salon, Hair by Brian.
I did just like this. No rubbing.
She says her hair went from picture perfect to falling out in days.
All of that is like scab coming up.
Christine started searching for answers and found Diamond on social media. Diamond says she went to Brian's salon a few years ago.
He did a double process on me, a double bleaching process. My hair starts falling out like I had chemo. Like it's literally as you touch it, it's just coming off.
We found more stories like this in the reviews of Hair by Brian on the salon's social media pages.
My hair started falling out in his hand in the sink while he was washing my hair.
I'm currently in the ER for a scalp burn.
Team 12 Investigates obtained copies of a Bronx County business certificate for Hair by Brian. The names Brian Andrew and Brian E. Andrew are used, but when searching for a license under those names, nothing comes up. So I went to the Department of State to ask the clerks to search for the license.
I mean, he's not coming up, and that's not a complicated name.
Right.
And he's not coming up.
Hi, is this Brian? We called Brian to tell him we couldn't find his license, which he insists he has. He told me I can't know if Brian Andrew is his legal name or not, despite it being used on the business certificate. And he says he is licensed in New York State and went to beauty school for 7 months in the city, but he won't show us any information supporting his claims. He also claims Christine and Diamond are lying and are trying to extort him for money. But Christine and Diamond feel they need to tell their stories so that no one else has to tell the same one. Now, Team 12 Investigates continues to look into this salon as well as others throughout the borough. So make sure if you have any concerns or issues, you reach out to me. For News 12, I'm Katelynn Ulrich.